This is the interview with the man who created Thomas Wooden Railway. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is an interview with Roy Wilson, the man that co-founded, um, I guess founded at least, Thomas Wooden Railway. He's pretty much responsible for creating the brand and giving us what we know today. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. This man created Thomas Wooden Railway. Okay. So I'm going to be doing an interview with Roy, and I'm going to be asking him a lot of questions that have been provided by several users, and we're going to ask him some of the, well, at least we're going to try and get to the bottom of some of the secrets, or at least the myths and mysteries of Thomas Wooden Railway, such as certain items that have come to existence, like the Whiteface Thompson truck, or the startup date controversy. So I've actually got one of the items here, the Whiteface Thompson truck. Here we go. Got him right here, and we're going to find out the mystery behind him. Hopefully, if you can remember, we're going to find out where he came from. At least, I hope so. I hope you can remember. I'm hoping this is the real Roy Wilson, not some troll, but I'm about to find out. Okay, so just going to tell him it's ready. And yeah, so this is the interview with Roy Wilson. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope this turns out well, and I hope this isn't something embarrassing. So let's go on with the video. Just make sure I can...
Hello?
Oh, there we go. Oh, that's strange. Let's try again. The call just ended randomly. I don't know what happened. Hello?
Oh,
Mr. Wilson.
how are you, Robert?
I'm good, Mr. Wilson. How are you? I'd just like to say thank you very much for doing this interview. I really appreciate it.
It looks fine. It looks like you have quite a collection of Thomas product in your back.
Oh, yeah, the collection. Yeah, I have a little shelf here. It's actually a mix of stuff. I got the classic Thomas Wooden Railway items, and then up here I've got some electric trains that were produced by Bachmann and Hornby. They're a model train company. So, you know, we've got the Hornby Thomas model train. Oops. Model train version.
Yep. Sure.
Yeah, it's the little Hall of Fame, I guess. But of course, I got the Wooden Railway all down there. It's a little hard to see because of the webcam, but they're all down there.
How long have you been collecting Thomas?
Well, I've been collecting since, I guess, before I was born, when my older brother started getting the Thomas Wooden Railway products, probably around the time he was about 2. So that would have been about the early 90s. And I think Wooden Railway would have been the first brands of Thomas Wooden Railway. Thomas Wooden Railway would have been the first brand of trains we played with, since it was, you know, marketed for, I think it was 2 to 102.
Right. It's quite a start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's just so versatile too. I mean, you can, I know we used to take the trains and put them on. For instance, there was Brio. We had some Brio trains. The track was compatible with that, and there was even a brand of plastic trains they made. I think it was by Tomy, and the track, you could also use that too. You know, it was just so convertible and versatile. You could, you know, it would get beat up and it would stay, you know, wouldn't break. It just, you know,
Right.
I mean, it was a great brand, and obviously, growing up with it, you know, I've over time just come to appreciate it in a new light for the quality that it has, against a lot of toys that are made today, and that's part of the reason why I review them, because there's something about them that needs to be, kind of like needs to be examined. We need to look back at how these toys are made and how high quality they are and how they still hold up. Sorry.
Well, I have a 12-foot by 12-foot by 8-foot high safe that's full of new or test pieces of Thomas that range from 1992, when we first started designing and making them, right from just plain hand-cut blocks, up to 1998, although I have product up through 2006.
Wow.
But I haven't saved any since then.
Ooh. Well, I mean,
and it's all wooden railway system.
If you have the older stuff is the best. So that safe is like the holy grail for Thomas Wooden Railway fans. That's like finding the heart of the ocean, for us at least. I mean, that's got to be just a treasure trove of unique items that just never saw light of day, or prototypes that.
When I saved them, I saved them as references for each year's new products to make sure there weren't significant changes that were being made in the factories.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, as they retired them, I accumulated this large amount that I engraved on the bottom and numbered and dated and signed, so that I would know that was the first one made, or that was a pre-production, or it had a taped code on it. For example, Gordon or something, indicating this was made before the shape was even agreed upon. And then the process would be, I would take it and send it to Bert Alcroft in England, and I would also send it to Shining Time Station down in New York. And they had a team down there, particularly a girl who, a guy and a girl, who would then go ahead and give me their critique. Mostly it was a color critique. She was pretty touchy about colors, being right on to the colors that were used in the movies.
Wow.
The only time that she really missed out, I think on a couple of them, was Peter Sam and Sir Topham Hatt's car. They changed the color on Sir Topham Hatt's car. They said, I don't think it's interesting enough to have that blue car.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make it bright and cheery and make it a yellow car.
See, that's always been sort of an interesting mystery, as to why the car in the show is light blue, but then on the Wooden Railway item it's yellow. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And then later on, when they went to plastic, on Sir Topham Hatt's car, they changed it to blue.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I don't know if you have one.
I don't have the original Sir Topham Hatt's car. I don't have that one. I know people that do, and that's sort of one of those really hard to get items. At least it's hard to find now. If you go on eBay, they're hundreds. Sometimes, well, I mean, you can probably get one maybe if you're lucky for $50, $60, but sometimes they can go for about $100. They're just so different.
I have them, but I didn't design them because they were all plastic, and I didn't like all plastic products. Which goes to answer your question, why did I leave in 1998? And that is because they were insisting on so much plastic in the product line, and I had agreed on it being a wooden railway system, and I said, why don't we name it the plastic and wooden railway system? And um, that didn't go over well, and I had better things to do, so I went on, left Learning Curve's work, and went on to do more work of my own.
Excuse me for being so excited, but I'm just trying to take that in because I can really appreciate that as someone that has always been. Because whenever I get into talks with people, I've always said, wooden railway should be wooden railway. And they're always saying, well, it's okay to have some plastic features, and I think, well, it kind of ruins the integrity of what it's supposed to be. I mean, it was
Of
fine when it was
course.
when it was completely wood, it was fine, right? When it
Yeah, I
was.
mean the metal had to be the metal on the and the magnets and the wheels had to be
Oh yeah,
plastic.
there's obvious. Oh yeah, there's
But
exceptions.
every little piece of wood in there, and I think there's 16 to 18 pieces of wood involved in making an engine. Um, by the time you put that together, that really is a wood assembly, and that was my goal, was to return to wood toys, not plastic toys. Plastic toys was for Fisher Price and Bandai.
Mm. Yeah, they. I mean, they did. Bondi actually did a range of Thomas products, and they were plastic. And
Right.
I mean, wooden products. I mean, if they're made right, can just be so much more durable. And I think I like what you said. I mean, obviously, plastic, is in some ways a good product when it's needed, right? But um, I guess around the time that they started introducing they wanted to introduce more plastic to the items and the models. They started to phase out because I mean I know in 1998 they began to put plastic funnels on the engines to give it a little
Right.
more detail. For instance, oh, this Percy, which is from I believe 2000 2001, has a more detailed funnel because it's plastic.
It's all plastic, including the stack.
Really, so right there.
That boiler is part of it. It's plastic. That black boiler.
Oh, this, yeah. So this is plastic right here.
Right.
Yeah, so I can kind of see. Actually, I can understand and sympathize with why you would have been frustrated because they were just starting to phase out what made the brand so great in the first place. The wood. I mean, that's what it is. It's sort of like just taking away. It's like there was a television channel called Sci-Fi, the science fiction channel. Great channel. My dad and I loved it, but they stopped showing science fiction movies and they started showing reality shows. So they kept the
Right.
name Sci-Fi, but they changed the lettering so that it was SYFY, I believe. So it still had Sci-Fi,
I,
or it was
yeah.
SCIFI, but they did that to keep the name, but then change the idea that the channel was now just sci-fi, and it didn't have to show science fiction stuff, and that bothered a lot of people, and that took away from what made the show good. So I can
Right.
see where you would have been frustrated having to see them taking out parts of the engine that could have easily been made with wood, but they just decided let's make it cheaper. So that would have been frustrating. So I can sympathize.
Yeah, and if you notice that about 1996, things like the aquarium car and others came along with a lot of plastic on them.
Oh, the aquarium cars. I know
Yeah,
about them. I know about the
and
newer versions. Yeah.
and when all the cars and all the destinations were getting to be all plastic, the car wash and all these other things, and compared to say my early designs were block simple. They were all wood, if not 90% wood. The log loader, the Ellsbridge station, and so on. I'll go back to Ellsbridge station and so on because if you got one, an Ellsbridge platform, I'll point out some things to you that you were curious about, but you didn't really know they were there.
I don't.
Do you have those?
I don't believe I have Ellsbridge platform. Darn it. Or the Ellsbridge station.
Station or the platform?
No, unfortunately, I don't have those two. Though I do have. At least I could easily pull up a picture. I mean, I know of exactly what item you're talking about, though. I know lots of people who have Ellsbridge Station, the original version. Let's see. There we go. Yeah. The Ellsbridge Station.
Well, here's something you can remember, Robert.
Mm-hmm.
On the platform, there was a caricature. It's the station master. You know, the ticket master. That's me.
On the Ellsbridge,
that was
Ellsbridge
a caricature
platform?
of me, not Ringo Starr, but me.
On the
Ellsbridge, with a mustache and glasses.
On the Ellsbridge platform?
Yeah. There was also magazines from my local town and the magazine in the front, the newspaper from our town's Arcade Herald, and that's where the Thomas products were being made, right behind the Arcade Herald. There was also a picture in there from our Chamber of Commerce from a book with the train on it. That's a train that used to belong to my grandfather, and I designed that Chamber of Commerce book and then did a picture of it in the magazine rack on the front of the platform. It's red, white, blue, and black. And there's also pictures. There's a picture of 3 people down in that magazine rack, and those are my 3 children.
Huh. Wow.
2 sons and a daughter.
I have a picture loaded of the Ellsbridge platform, and I can see the little man with the mustache. And at first, I was thinking, oh, that's just like Ringo because he had the the beard and the dark hair. But that I can now kind of see the resemblance from the interview that your granddaughter did. I can see the resemblance.
Now on the station, on the pinup bulletin board is actually 3 pictures of them. One of them's in a tuxedo, one is in a suit, and then my daughter, who is Korean, just to let you know, she's adopted. She's on there too. So you got 3 of them that appeared on there, along with my initials that I put into everything. RW.
Really? That's amazing. It really is amazing how subtle that is, and that you.
Up behind your head, behind you on the top of your shelf, is the windmill.
Oh, come on, I get that. Here we are. I added some things on the back to make it swing.
Now look down in the brickwork under the shrubbery, and you'll see the lowercase r and the lowercase w hooked together. That's my initials.
Is it on the artwork?
It's on the artwork under the shrubbery. The colorful trees are under the pine tree. I don't know which, since I don't have one right here with me. But it's also located on the top in the wood grain. If you go around and you look at the wood grain planks, you see an RW.
Huh.
Kind of 2/3 of the way up the building.
It's a bit hard to see because my version's a little chipped, but I'll have to look closer because.
Yeah, the original playboard. Do you remember that big, colorful original playboard?
Oh.
Yeah. Now inside those trees and shrubs, there's probably 20 to 30 RWs. That'll give you something to do someday.
That's amazing. That is just amazing. It's putting your little name all over. I'd have to look. Oh, I can see one. Oh, yeah. There it is. RW. On one of these shrubs, I can see it. That's amazing. I'll have to get a closer look at that.
See, my signature is my name in lowercase writing in a peculiar lowercase. So it's always smaller case r, smaller case w. So my initials are RW lowercase.
That is amazing.
Do you have the clay cars?
The Sototronic clay cars? Whoops. Yep. There we go.
Okay, my birthday is 3/5/47. Look at the number on the car.
There we go.
And the other one who was working with me on this project from the beginning was my older son. His birthday is 5. I think it's 5/2/72.
Yep, that's it. Oops. 5/2/72.
Yeah, and I just figured that would be clever to have a number on them anyhow.
Yeah.
Why not make it a significant number?
That's amazing. I mean, that's amazing just to have that little detail like that. You know what it does? It gives it a kind of craftsmanship. It's like leaving a signature without doing it, like an artist by putting your name instead you're putting your birthday.
Right, like a stamp.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that because it shows that there's a kind of human touch to it. That it's not just somebody just throwing a product out there that they're saying I designed this. Hey, you know what? I like it. I'm going to put my birthday on it. Just as a kind of just even if no one ever notices, there was at least intent
I,
to put like something on it that was part of you. You know, I like that. I really do. That's really amazing. We just, you know, you'd never really even noticed that one, for instance. But that's funny.
and of course, along with all of this, there's a thousand stories of how everything happened from 8 years, 7 years, beginning with your list. If you wanted to go through your list, we could go through that.
Actually, that was just what I was about to pull up because I was thinking about the just the question of earlier when you were talking about having all the pre-production models and such. I sort of came to my first question. So I got my list out here, and my first question. So I think yeah, it's oh yeah, so it's about the idea. I think you answered it in the interview that you did with your granddaughter for Toy Directory, but you answered it sort of as I think it was somebody came to you, but it was about the idea of creating a brand of Thomas themed wooden toys. Did you approach Britt Allcroft, or did a representative approach you, or did you approach them? How did that go about?
No, they approached me uh, through early learning centers. Early learning centers in the closed in England. I'm sorry, closed in the United States, stayed open in England. Is a high chain of toy stores, but they were forced to close in the U.S. and go through bankruptcy. But they were approached and said, "Is there anybody interested in the Thomas name and a new product in the U.S.?" And first Nibs went to Early Learning Center, and they said they would like to keep the Thomas name and use it on something. So they came to me to discuss if I could do anything with wood, and would I do it for a share of the company, meaning Early Learning Center becoming Learning Curve as a part of a new company. And I'm talking about a total of 5 people, including the secretary. And I said, certainly, I can leave what I'm doing and take this on 60, 70, 80 hours a week, which I actually had to do in order to get them 12 prototypes of handmade prototypes of everything sent out to Britt Croft, handmade, hand colored, hand painted. Those I have no idea where they are, but I have the originals. And that's where we started. I engineered them. I went over them with the former president and vice president of early learning centers. They were the only ones that were left over. And they, myself, and a financier started Learning Curve Toys.
Wow.
But they had no idea of how to design, engineer, manufacture, anything about graphics, about pad printing, hot stamping, manufacturing techniques. And I did because I built, designed, engineered toys, consumer electronics, automotive products, and I built the plants that they were made in, from Korea to Taiwan to China and in the U.S. So I said, yeah, I would love to do this, and I'll spend as much time as necessary to make this huge. And only with the prototypes we had that we showed to uh, the sales groups, there was within a matter of 3 months, there was a pre-order of over $1 million.
Wow.
And nothing had been made yet. It was only prototypes.
So I don't want to interrupt, but I do just have a question though about the prototypes that you had made, because I have a screenshot from a video a friend of mine in California made. He's a Thomas Winrari fan. His name is Joshua Louvier. He's probably a bigger, he is. He's a bigger collector and reviewer than I am. And he has in his possession a 22-piece starter set that was made by Early Learning Center. And
Actually, I designed that.
oh, and that would explain why Early Learning Center was in Britain,
Early
because
Learning Center was in the process of going bankrupt,
and then you came
and that's when they first started early 1992, and I came up with all the components, had the products made, and we were getting them made locally right in our town here in Arcade, New York, and packaged out of Buffalo, New York. And they had the 22 piece and two other sets, right? And you see all those people with the paper labels on them, Sir Topham Hat and so on.
Yeah.
Those were all hand applied by my friends.
That's pretty. And these were all they're all made in the U.S. This is basically the first set, really.
That's the very first sets that went out. They went out that way before they were ever sold individually.
So they were sold.
There were three sets, not just one.
Oh. And would they?
Three sets.
So there was the 22-piece starter set.
22 piece, something around 50, and then one with 100.
100. Wow. Now, so this set was released, I think, in a mag. It was a mail order only.
I can't quite frankly tell you where it went because I was so busy getting them made.
It says in the screenshot my friend took, you would order the set in time for Christmas, Christmas 1992, to a company. What was the screenshot? From ELC Brand Railway System, so that would be Early Learning Center, 4 Pepe's Farm Road, Milford, Connecticut. I guess that was where the company would have been located.
Right. I think maybe the learning curve. I mean, the learning centers, early learning centers, which it would have been ELC, could have been shipping directly through a fulfillment program.
I see. So on the set, there is a screenshot of what comes with the set. However, the really intriguing thing about this screenshot is that it actually shows a version of this set that is what you would consider the prototype set, because it has pieces that are totally different from their final versions. For instance, I'll show you the screenshot. Thomas has red wheels, like the red Brio wheels, and the shed doesn't have any windows on it. and it's just a
That's
totally
a
new.
handmade set
So that would have been designed by you in early 1992.
and made by me.
Wow. And you wouldn't happen to have that set still, or was it given out as a
Oh, I
sample?
do. I do.
Really?
Yeah, I still have that. It's not for sale.
Man, I figured. I mean, that's got to be like the first, or I mean, would that have been the first version of Thomas that you built, or was there an even earlier version?
Pardon?
So with the Thomas with the red wheels, so this Thomas that has, or the Brio wheel Thomas, would that have been the first Thomas that you would have designed, or were there even earlier versions, like a version made of
Yeah,
this?
well, there was one earlier that had wood wheels only, no color.
Ooh. And then the version that is in that screenshot, was that the first sort of put together set?
Commercial.
So that we would have
Right.
you would have pitched, or at least said, this is what we're gonna make, and then the final product that you can now buy has a Thomas that looks more like the version that was released by Learning
Right.
Curve.
Blue wheels, right.
And the version in this, the versions that were made by Early Learning Center were a little bit more unique. They had different, some of them had different sized funnels, slightly different faces, because they were more handmade. Is that right?
That's right.
Because
I've got probably between the four major engines, which you're aware of, the James, the Gordon, the Edward, Thomas and Percy, and did I miss
I
somebody?
think Henry, he would have been the third engine.
And Henry, yeah. They went through a series of funnel and smokestack changes, higher, lower. They went, and then finally they went from cut off flat on the top. The very first ones are cut off flat.
Mm-hmm.
Then they went to a beveled one, which they perceived as being safer. Yes, like that.
This is has like a rounded, or almost rounded top. Like for instance, this Gordon here. This Gordon has the flat top.
Right, that's an early one.
So that would have been, this would have been like one that was, at least one of the first. I mean, would this have been? So this version would have been under early, well, at least it would have been under Learning Curve when they first were distributed in early 1993. I think that's, hold on, sorry for interrupting myself, but
Well, that would have been somewhere between June and August of 1992.
really, wow. So was that still, that was still early Learning Center?
By that time, it was Learning Curve.
Really? So early Learning Center at that point was out of the picture, and you had become Learning Curve.
Right.
So that, I guess that puts an end to the old debate some of the users have, where because there is no 1992 yearbook and it only starts at 1993, the debate is whether the brand was released in 1992 or was released in 1993 and simply manufactured in 1992. But now I think that puts an end to that. So this would have been
Right.
August, or at least summer 1992. Wow.
Right. That the majority of those shipments went to England to I'm trying to think of the name of the big gambling company. Starts with an H.
Gambling company?
Oh, casino company. They own. They're a big conglomerate.
I don't think it would be
but
Hasbro.
they have
I don't think it would
toy
be Hasbro.
distribution.
Hmm.
They got the entire first shipment. And it'll pop back to my mind sometime, but they got the entire first shipment. Then there were two guys down in Miami, Florida, who were in charge of all sales in the United States, right out of Miami. They were shipping also the end of 1992 on a small basis, because the actual Thomas line wasn't formally introduced until 1993 at Toy Fair.
Ah, okay. And that's when it was sort of mass
In
produced.
February.
Okay.
By that time, with almost no product in the pipeline, by 1993 in February, the sales uh, demand was up over $2.5 million, without having gotten much more than $1 million worth of goods out.
Wow. Kind of reminds me of when Star Wars made a deal with a toy company. I forget what their name was. It was Kelman or something. It will come to me. Um, but they had released the movie, and then they had agreed to do a toy line. And the movie, of course, exploded. So they didn't have the amount of toys to fulfill the orders. So they had to basically give kids a little box that said, you know, you have, or it was like a little box where you could collect the characters, and then you would order the certain character, like Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, and then you would get a little card saying you will receive a Luke Skywalker on such and such date. It was like a voucher. So they had to wait to get the characters because they simply were not prepared for the popularity. So kind of like here, where you didn't simply have the amount of merchandise, and yet you were getting the crazy, amount of offers to buy it. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, well, I'm in kind of the same predicament, except that I've been 5 years in the patent process of a new product and toy line, and it's already been manufactured. It's sitting in a warehouse up in Hamilton, not far away from you, Canada, and due to its U.S. patent that just became effective in July of 2015, the patent says I can start distributing in the United States on the 16th of November. However, we can have it in the stores anytime before then.
Mm-hmm.
So the stores can actually put up a display, a free display saying, you can pre-order your product and have it and pick it up on November 16th. If you want to write down the website, you can look it up later, but that's my latest 5-year journey.
Oh, sure. I got a notepad here.
Okay, it's creative.
Yep.
Number one,
Mm-hmm.
kids, KIDS.com.
Okay. I'll definitely.
It'll be self-explanatory.
Okay.
It's a device that links and connects, adapts Legos to wooden railway systems and
Wow.
holds them together tight so you can pick your entire display up by one piece and the whole thing comes up. And
That's
then you can snap it into Lego pieces.
wow. And so this is going to be a product that's coming out soon, or is it already?
It's out in it's out in the warehouse. It hasn't been shipped anywhere in Canada yet. It's going to all be released for fourth quarter 2016.
Wow. So this is going to be the
It's
next.
already accepted by Amazon and Walmart and Toys R Us and Barnes and Noble, um, few places like that.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. It's a pretty neat thing. So what it does is it connects the wooden railway track,
Right.
and then it's
And it
also
also has accessories. There's a whole bunch of accessories that snap onto the connectors. If you happen to go and leave me for a minute and you want to pop on that site, you can see it for a minute.
oh, I actually am on it right now. I can see, yeah, you got the street lamps, you got the bridge, the little trees that attach onto the side. That's really neat. That is really
And
neat.
then you can snap in all your Legos to make aerial railways, go on the top of houses, go on the top of an airport, for example, or a railroad terminal,
That is really neat.
archways.
That is really neat. I know several users in this community. There's a user named Enterprising Engine 93, and he does a series of Thomas Wooden Railway. He uses Thomas Wooden Railway to make short films. And he uses Lego. He uses little Lego characters. I got one right here. Little guy like this. And
Right.
and he uses Lego pieces as well. Like he makes Lego buildings, and he combines the two to have the human characters interact with the wooden railway characters. Really interesting stuff, and he uses outdoor sets. And this would actually be a really interesting thing for him because then he could combine the two instead of just having like the building and then the wooden railway stuff. He could actually build bridges and all kinds of things using Lego and then attach his wooden railway track with ease because then he wouldn't have
Right.
to worry about having to construct or tape down anything. He could simply use these pieces. So that would actually be a really, really neat thing for him.
Yeah, I'm in negotiations with Fisher Price, who I used to design for, and I'm only 20 miles away from the Fisher Price Mattel Center, and they now own Thomas, and they also own Mega Blocks.
Mm,
And I'm trying to convince them it's a natural product for them to distribute.
definitely. And Mega Bloks and Lego are very similar, so.
It's identical,
Mm-hmm.
identical, and I'm set to be able to interchange with 6 different companies' blocks, mechanical blocks, construction blocks.
That is really neat. I'm looking at these pictures, these screenshots. I like how you've used both like Brio products and Thomas Wooden Railway. It's really neat. That's incredible. I mean, that's a great invention, and I you know what I'd like to see
Well,
that.
for the youngest kids, uh, they can put their layout together, and it won't move, won't fall apart, won't come apart when they play with it.
Mm-hmm. They'll be very
Then
sturdy.
they can take it and hang it right up on the wall somewhere. Mom can help them.
Oh yeah, I saw this screenshot. That's pretty cool. How you can design a track, a little layout, and actually just pick it up, and that's pretty cool. That is really neat. I'd love
Yeah,
to
I
hear.
had the idea. It struck me one day that I was reading statistics that there's 50 billion Legos in the world with almost 5 to 10 billion new ones being made every year. And there's I don't know, 180 wooden railway systems in the U.S. And I said, well, wouldn't it be nice if we could attach the two together?
Exactly, it's a match made in heaven.
And I'd make something that nobody else makes that that people would find useful because it could be used for more than one thing.
Hmm. That's that's really amazing.
Anyhow,
Did I get that? Oh,
yeah, if later on you're interested and you or someone wants to do a serious um, YouTube presentation, I'd send a set.
okay, business. That's really thank you for that opportunity. Thank you. That'd be really interesting to do. I've actually there was a person that in Austria. They one second. I don't have it with me, but they sent me a sample of a product that's um, that basically it's like a clip, but it's a simple little clip that just attaches two pieces of wooden railway track. But all it does is it doesn't cause the track to fall apart. So what it does is it allows a kid to attach like three pieces of track with these little clips and then make their own little bridge, right? So they don't have to, if they want to have two tables and they want to put two layouts on one table, they can connect the track. I don't know the status of what they've been up to or where they're going to manufacture it. I know they're out of Austria, but it's just one of those
Well,
really interesting little
they
ideas.
can't sell it in the U.S. because I own the patent for 20 years now. So
Really, if I
on
had one of
anything that says click adapter,
I had them somewhere.
and mine, if you look at it on the screen, it has locking tabs on the side to accommodate different widths of track
Hmm.
because track comes in about 6 different widths, narrow to wide, learning curve the widest. And if you put a wide piece of track together and a narrow one, you get one sloppy joint. Well, I solved that by putting 4 clips on it, integrated into it, which you can see from the pictures. And those S clips press in on the sides of the track to equalize it.
I see. Yeah, it's almost like they kind of overlap.
Right.
That's really interesting. Wow. I can see from this picture on the website. That's amazing. So I don't want to get too off topic, though. Just sort of
Yeah,
expand. Oh, just to
let's get away.
well, just to expand on what we've been talking about, because I know that you mentioned, at least in text, right before we started the interview, that you had gone up to work on Shining Time Station in the '90s, or at least
Well, I stopped in. I was into Shining Time at least once a month down in New York City because I was developing product out 2 years in advance, sometimes 3 years in advance, because we were planning and pulling products so that they would have X many of new cars, trains, coaches, and destinations uh, to introduce every year to keep the line fresh. So I was down there for preliminary talks, taking models down, meeting with the Shining Time Station people, um, coming back up, making finished prototypes, meaning uh, models that were used for photography. They looked like absolutely the perfect finished prototype. And uh, so I was traveling 2 to 3 days a week. And Shining Time Station, uh, I would get to see it filmed every once in a while, but mostly it was my job was, the entire product line.
Okay. And did you get to meet a lot of the people that worked on the show?
I did, but I wouldn't remember the names. I know you mentioned the name here, David Mitten.
Ah, David Mitten. Well, I don't. He
He
was.
was up in Canada.
Yeah, he was the original director of the show when it was still in England, and then I believe sometime in the late '90s he began expanding on shows involving tugs. He did a show called Tugs in England, and then I believe here or a fellow producer was doing a show in Canada called Theater Tugboat.
Yeah, I didn't meet, um, other than the fact that I would meet with Britta Elcroft several times a year at Toy Fair and then also at the Shining Time Center down in New York. I'd meet with her and also the CEO of the company, CFO, I should say. And that's where we would negotiate contracts.
Uh, do you remember the name of the man who was, or the person that was CFO?
No, he's still there. He's still alive, believe it or not.
I don't think that would have been. No, I think Rick Sigalo, I think is his name. He would have been. I think he was.
No, then he's not the one. The one before was Angus.
Ah, oh, I think I've. Man, I think a quick search we might be able to find him. But I think Rick Sigalo was a fellow producer with Britt, and she and him produced Shining Time Station. And he was.
Right.
He also did, I think, a show called The Naughty Shop in Toronto, which was what they did was they like with Thomas, where they took the original 5 minute shorts and adapted them with live action. The Naughty Shop was also live action. They took 5 minute segments from the original British show, Here Comes Naughty, I think is what it was called, and then it was stop motion, and then they combined them to create new little stories. And the 5 minute short would usually have a life lesson that will be relevant to the live action story as a whole. So if the live action segment was about why, I don't know, just if stealing was bad, then the 5 minute segment of the episode would have that same theme, and then they would combine them. So that's
On your on your list, you asked about number 5, about designing each character.
Oh,
and
yes.
The process transitioning.
Oh, so I think it was how you went about designing each character. Was there a process? Like, what was the process of seeing a character in a show or in the books? Because there were a lot of characters that did not exist in the TV show that came from the Railway series. So how did you go about looking at the character and choosing, how you would adapt it, and what would be the limitations of doing that?
Well, there were limitations. First of all, when it came to engines and cars and so on, we had some common parts that we had to deal with, some common wheels, a lot of common wheels, common chassis. Occasionally, we could share common boilers, but make them longer, for example. Um, but when it came to making a totally new character, let me just throw one out to you, which talks about one later on, and that's Toby. Toby was a challenge where I had to pick, although I have an all wood Toby, um, I had to pick a plastic skirt for Toby to make it safe, to make it pass toy inspection
The cow catchers.
and quality control, toy safety. It used a common chassis, a common roof, and a common extrusion for the body of Toby. But what was different was, and I'm not totally sure because that's a different that's a different question that you asked about Toby.
Oh, I think it
But
was. Yeah.
I believe I believe Toby originally came out with four wheels.
Oh, he did. The original Toby, as I have right here. The original
Just
Toby
like
came out.
just like Mavis.
Yes. So the original Toby came out with four wheels, as you can see right here. And
Yeah, you see the staple at the bottom.
oh yeah. Yep.
Yep.
And then here's the original Mavis with four wheels and two staples.
Right.
So I think the question was in the. Actually, I think I got it right here.
The reason to come out with six wheels was that they went around curves better.
Mm-hmm. So the Mavis originally had four wheels, and then she was given six in later versions.
Then she was given six.
Mm-hmm. Why wasn't? Was there a reason Toby wasn't given six wheels? At least when he. Why wasn't the released version given six wheels?
I have Toby's with six wheels.
Really? Because I mean in the pamphlet right there, that Toby has six wheels, and that's been a sort of legendary item. Because
That's also the 2000, the year 2000 copyright.
so so I'm just trying. Oh, so Mavis. What's interesting though is that Mavis was always pictured as having six wheels. She was released with four wheels originally, and then was eventually given six wheels. And then Toby was
Right.
always Toby was originally pictured with having six wheels, but always had four wheels. So I guess just the question is, why was Toby originally given six wheels, but then changed to four, and then it was never changed back? I guess is the question.
Do you have the one with four wheels or not?
The Toby?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I think every version.
Read the
of Toby,
date on the wheel. On the inside.
It doesn't have a date. It's all it says is a number one, and then the other wheel says number two, number five.
Yeah, that's the original. It came out with four wheels first, then six wheels.
Was
Those
Toby...
are generic. Those are the generic wheels that came out in 1992 and 93.
Was the Wooden Railway Toby ever released with having six wheels?
Yeah.
Really, I don't. Mavis was. I think Mavis was released with six wheels. I don't know. I don't know if Toby was ever released with four wheels, or six wheels. My bad. It gets so confusing, right? Because it's just a similar character, but I think the six-wheeled Toby only exists as a prototype because I don't know anybody or anyone that has ever had a six-wheel Toby or has had found one pictured, except for in the pamphlet, which includes a lot of, well, prototype items such as the original bird.
Right.
So I think Toby was never released with six wheels. He always had four wheels, and Mavis was originally released with four wheels, but then given six wheels. So I think the question is, why was Toby not given six wheels, but Mavis given six wheels? Was there just a slightly different design in the engines that just made it impossible for Toby to turn? Or?
Well, the six wheels went around curves. The decision was that we would go with six wheels on them better because they had that shroud around them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the shroud around the bottom.
Yeah, the cow catcher.
The cow catcher, right? And I can't tell you why. I'm almost sure I've got six-wheel Tobys, but they're all packed away in hundreds of boxes right now. I did my photography back in uh, September and October, and then packed it all back away again.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look at my photographs.
Okay. It's just that I don't think anybody has ever gotten their hands on a Toby that has six wheels. I think Toby has always been released with just four wheels, but Mavis had four wheels and it was then given six wheels. So that's just sort of a legend because the six-wheel Toby is considered this, you know, just this holy grail, or because you simply cannot get it because I think it was only a prototype. That I mean, you would probably have it as you just said, but it was never released to the general market.
You know, back to five. The other design uh, limitation was cost.
Mm-hmm.
They had to maintain a retail price cost, and we maintained spreadsheets that would show factory cost plus time and motion. Had to know all that.
Okay, and so it was um, it was basically just making it as simple as possible without being no simpler.
Right. In the case of Toby, in the case of Mavis, it became more expensive because of the plastic casting at the bottom.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can see that. You know that the whole bottom is just encased in this plastic shell, which I guess at the time would have been expensive when you were going for wooden toys. I can see that. Thank you for answering that. It's a little bit more insight into the mystery of the six-wheel
Yep.
Toby. I guess now, what's question number 7 is a question that a lot of people have been looking, or at least seething to find the answer for, particularly me. An item that is sort of a holy grail to some members because it's actually, at least you can get your hands on it if you're lucky or happen to have the money. And it is the white-face troublesome truck.
Yeah, I believe that when we produced enough to send to England and to down in New York to Shining Time Station, that we might have made 100 or 200. You know, I can't be sure of the number. I only know that I have the first ones. They're pristine. They're beautiful. and it was made with the intention of looking like a plastic vase
Mm-hmm.
because I came up with a screened imprint over white that would translate into a 3D face.
I see. And so that was the face. So
And the decision was that it was too expensive to make it with the extra step of making it white,
I see.
to go with the black
Stencil.
outline only, which I was against because I didn't think that looked appropriately. I have right in front of me that artwork.
Oh, for this or for the stencil?
No, for the black and white only.
Mm-hmm. So this was sort of like the stenciled face that you just.
Well, that's where they said we were going to go with it. Now, the very earliest of all of them had nails in the front.
Mm-hmm. I saw that a user named Donald Douglas, I think that's what he went by. He showed a timeline of the Troublesome Drunks, and the
Right,
first version
or
he
nail,
had nails in the front of the face that went about here. It went right about here,
right,
or
and then
staples.
later they were filled in nails.
Mm-hmm.
They were still nailed, but they were filled in.
Oh, that's
And
interesting. So I guess when it comes to the Troublesome Truck, I mean, the first version had the black face, and then you also had the Troublesome Brake Van, which had the white laughing face. And
same
so,
white face.
mhm. So here you have the sort of offspring, as you will, of what happened, where it appears that this troublesome truck got this character's face. So was it a factory error, or was it wasn't intentional? I guess is the question.
Shipping out was a factory error.
Mm-hmm. So it was. So was this intended? Was this sort of done as a test?
That was a test run, and it wasn't supposed to be packaged and shipped.
Ah, so it escaped.
Only to only to England and New York City.
Mm. Well, that's interesting because this version that I have, I bought online from someone from England. So, I guess that explains it. Because I was thinking to myself, it's interesting how these are from New York, right? But somebody in England got them. But now that clears that up. So, do you have?
Right?
Pardon? Do you
No,
have?
I was agreeing with you.
Oh, sorry. So, do you have any idea exactly how many of these were produced? Like, would you have a ballpark guess?
Now, my ballpark guess would be about 100.
Really? Man. So these were so you had this. So just a sort of rough timeline, just so we got everything sorted out. So this was the original troublesome truck, except it had staples in its face, and then you also
Right,
had the troublesome brake van, which was the sort of laughing box car,
right,
and so
which nobody liked it. It didn't sell well.
really, well, that is fascinating because this is probably one of the most cherished items of Thomas Wooden Railway collectors now. I think
That's
that's
because it's one of the fewest number of items that were produced of, a single car or coach.
wow. So people at the time didn't appreciate it, but now everybody appreciates it for how hard it is to get and how simplistic it is. I've always complimented it because there is something about it that is charming. Even as a kid, I always thought it's so interesting that it's just a boxcar, and yet growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, most toys had to be extravagant. They had to have all different kinds of colors and be something so extreme and amazing. And then yet something like this, which is just like a real boxcar, is kind of is more exciting because you're thinking, wow, this is something that you don't really see anymore. Nobody's really making a highly manufactured, simplistic toy, and that's kind of what makes the Troublesome Brake Van so unique. Is that
Right.
it's this item that is so simple. You're kind of thinking to yourself, "There's no way they would mass produce this." And I guess I can see why at the time it wasn't very popular because it wasn't so eye-catching as a character like Thomas. So I mean, the bright colors really do sell a character like this because he's such a bright, character, and then you have this brown boxcar.
Well, you remember one thing, Robert. You're selling to parents,
Mm-hmm.
but children play with them.
They
Play with them,
exactly.
but the parents are the ones that buy them, and they often don't think certain items are that exciting.
That actually is a really good piece of advice that I think the original creator of Thomas, Reverend W. Audrey, shared in an interview when he was asked, I think, how he wrote the stories in the original Railway Series books. This is an example. You know, he was asked, who do you write for? And he said, not necessarily for the kid, but the poor soul who has to sit there and read this to their kid. So he obviously made it so that it was enjoyable and interesting in a general way, so that for a parent who had to read this to their children, maybe 100 times or maybe 300 times like a year, because the kid would want to keep reading this. He made sure that the story was intriguing enough so that a parent would be able to pick this up and read this and say, "Wow, I like this. I can appreciate this." So,
Yeah, it's very colorful and it's very iconoclastic. It's simplistic, and children can understand it.
mhm. So that's really interesting because people have always um, kind of wondered. Well, that's sort of a question. I think I did ask a question. What was the decision making process of choosing to eliminate an old character or introduce a new one?
That was never me. That was always the accounting department who would look at numbers
Mm-hmm.
and say the numbers are tailing off on sales. It's time to replace with the new list of products that we have. Let's pick two new items and let's replace Mavis or someone.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So
So it was a committee group that would decide that.
now, when you introduced a new character, was that you, or was that maybe a team of researchers that would look through the entire library of Thomas, whether in the TV show or the books, and say, "Oh, let's adapt that character"?
Well, I would promote my top 10 picks, and then I would have other items I would go in with. And you never want to dilute the water by coming in with too many choices, because then people don't pick anything. You give them a choice of 12 or 15, it's easy to pick 9 or 10. You give them a choice of 25, now they're all going to pick different items and you'll come out with no winners. And that was the Department of Marketing.
Okay, so would they be looking through the Railway series and going, "Oh, that's a good character. he's colorful. That's, you know, like I know, for instance, just one moment. Oh, wait. This character is called, I think, the Sodor Railway Repair. Oops.
That was one of my favorites, although I hated to have to use so much plastic.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
That was a mental challenge.
Because, for instance, the actual engine, as you can see, right, is mostly wood, but then you have the plastic front and then the little removable hopper at the end. That's plastic. And then the actual hopper car itself is wood, except for the little hoppers, which are plastic. Which I guess in that case, though, I mean, I don't think it would be possible to have made it all wood, because it would have simply been.
It wouldn't have been safe.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been complicated and also just almost impossible to make it safe.
But wood's limitation is the wood grain splitting and splintering.
Yes.
So we had to consider that.
Although I have to say, this character is really, really interesting, the Soda Railroad Repair, and he only existed in the Railway series, the books. He was never in the TV show.
Right.
So that's just one of those characters that someone, if it had been you or someone, would have said, "Oh, look, there's this yellow large train. Let's see if we can make it into a product."
Well, that's one of my favorites.
Really? Oh, actually, I guess I might as well just ask this right now. Besides the Soda Railroad Repair, do you have a particular favorite item above all? That was your favorite, either to make or was just your favorite character because he was so striking, or she?
Hang on. I don't know. I think of the rolling stock. It would be a toss up between that and between the railway repair set and the Flying Scotsman.
The Flying Scotsman. That's my favorite item. I love the Flying Scotsman. One moment. Ta-da!
Yep.
Big item, but
my problem there was getting the big wheels in to move.
Oh, these big driving wheels?
Yeah.
Let's take the tenders off for a second. Yeah, that's that's one of the questions. A friend of mine, his name's Eric Pierre. He's from Quebec. He actually reviewed this Flying Scotsman, and he wondered why the middle driving wheels were larger than the front wheels. Was it a limitation that had to be?
Well, the Flying Scotsman is actually a caricature of the real Flying Scotsman, which is a train in the British railway system. And it has two large, right, or in this case, three larger wheels.
Yes, yeah, you're right. It has the big.
Big driving wheels. So what I came up with is what we could do within our parameters.
I see. So it was. Sorry. It was basically trying to, I guess, represent those big driving wheels, and then still have the front wheels be smaller so that it could go around curves and also support the body. I see. Yeah, that's. I love the winking face, by the way.
Oh yeah, that I did all the artwork for all of these, and doing the faces was the fun.
It's a great character. I actually also have the the newer Flying Scotsman, the one they released 2 years ago. I actually did a review of it 2 years ago, and I don't know if you're really if you've seen it or if you're not a big fan of it, mainly because it's a bit more plasticky, unfortunately.
Yeah.
For instance, the bogies, the bogies on the bottom are plastic as opposed to wood. The cab, I'm pretty sure the cab is plastic, or at least the boiler. The boiler is plastic, and then part of the cab is wood, and then part of it is plastic. Um, it's still got the winking face, but unfortunately, it's it's just not as true to wooden railway as the original version. So I guess that leads into a question. I don't really think I wrote it down, but I guess it's a very simple question. How do you feel about the newer Thomas Wooden Railway items?
How do I feel about what?
The newer Thomas Wooden Railway items that they have released since you I guess left and weren't involved anymore. Have you?
Well, I think they've lost the integrity of the original wooden railway system. It's not a wooden railway system anymore. It's a wooden track. By the way, the track impressions and everything are a patent that I have with Learning Curve. Clickety clack shouldn't have happened. That
Really?
was a mistake done by the Chinese.
Really?
It should have been embossed. They couldn't do it, so they cut in railway ties.
Oh, that's
Just
really.
to let you know.
Wow. I mean, I have some right here. This box. So there's a piece of clickety clack track. Though
Right?
I actually had the original track when I was a kid. There, the original just.
Yeah, I have hundreds of boxes of that.
It's great track. I mean, a lot of people are torn over the clickety clack track and whether they think it's a neat design or it's just annoying. I'm a bit torn on it. I think it's a cool design, but it does get kind of annoying having to constantly hear that.
When you mix it, in with regular track like Brio or somebody's else, um, it's annoying. And I just didn't like cutting all the way through the wood and kind of destroying the integrity of the wood.
I see. That's interesting. I would have thought that the clickety clack track was done entirely on purpose. I thought it would have just been a stylistic and.
It was supposed to make a noise. That little D10 in the bottom was supposed to make a sound, a rumble sound, as the wheel went over it. Now, do you have the new track?
I don't. Oh,
The,
where it
with
has
the
the
wood grain
where,
ties?
with the little gray ties. I don't.
Yeah, with the wood grain ties.
I don't think I have. I know what kind of track you're talking about. I've seen it where it's like this track except it has the gray little light gray ties painted on it, and it has
Right.
the little tiny I think grooves on the inside, and not the big ones here.
That's what it was supposed to be like.
Ah, I see. And so it was supposed to be more
Instead,
stylistic.
the Chinese came up with clickety clack, presented it, and said, "We can't make the other. Is this a suitable substitute?" And I was in China at the time. Um, I had to help them set up to be able to make it, which was kind of against my principle. But the heads of Learning Curve and Shining Time um, said yes, they wanted to have the clack. They called it clack track at first.
Ah, and then it just sort of became what we now have as clickety clack.
Right.
That's really interesting. I didn't think you would have been well, just a critic of it. I guess are there any other items that like
So I'm a critic of that, and that's part of my patent.
uh, are you a critic of any other particular Thomas Wooden Railway items made during your time or since you've?
Pardon?
Are there any particularly Thomas Wooden? Are there any items in particular that you don't like that were made while you were there?
Uh, I didn't like the items with all the plastic in them, like the grain loader
Uh,
and the firehouse,
what about the
the
aquarium
coal
cars?
station.
What'd you think of the aquarium
Uh,
cars?
I worked on and did the crane, which sold very well for them, but I didn't like it.
Because it was
I'm sure a lot of people will say that that's great. I didn't like the engine wash
just less wood. It was.
because of less wood and more plastic.
I see. And the what about the aquarium cars?
Well, I didn't like those at all.
Me too.
Uh,
I bought the newer
I didn't
versions.
like I didn't like Trevor.
Really?
Trevor they had given me. I had an all wooden Trevor, and they made Trevor out of plastic.
Would it have been this version, or is this a
Yeah.
really?
No, it's not that version.
This is a 2001 version, so this would have been still still
Well, yeah, maybe it is the same one.
poor Trevor.
I liked the fact that they were able to detail more the printing and graphics. I did like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's known as pad printing or transfer printing. Um, I didn't like what they did to Terrence with the wheels on the sides of Terrence and the skirting that went around it.
Oh, the
That was all plastic.
oh, I mean, was that the caterpillars?
Pardon?
The caterpillars,
The
the gray.
yeah, no, that was fine. That was my idea.
Oh, really?
What I didn't like on Terrace is when they made it all plastic on the sides.
Mm. Oh yeah, the newer Terrence. I actually have the black wheeled version,
Right.
which is interesting because
It,
it was
it even the black wheel came with the gray Caterpillar tread.
yeah. I think mine was lost a long time ago. That's really neat. That's really neat. Let's see. So you have a large collection of your own. At least you have a lot of the different versions of each character. Um, I was doing a little
I
research.
grew up 2000, 1998, and then I have some between 2008, 2006 and 1998.
I think I was looking into
Probably over 1,000 items.
wow, 1,000. I think we were. I was looking at Syracuse University. You had done a sort of show there, and you had put out a huge display of Thomas Wood Railway items from various years. Some of them newer, and some of them in the original boxes from the early mid '90s. So wow,
Right?
that's pretty impressive. You know, that's got to be probably the best collection that anybody can ever have of Thomas Wood Railway.
Yeah, I have it under high security.
um, oh yeah, I mean, I can just see how like I mean nowadays people are spending sometimes over $100 to get just one item. I think it's become sought after not only for collectors but also parents of kids who are growing up now, where I don't think the toys are quite as good, and they're looking to get those older toys because if they've held up for this long, they'll hold up, for another 20, 15 years, 20 years, 15 years, and so for them,
Yep.
getting like a toy like this, if it's lasted in someone's possession for this long intact, then it will hold up for their kid, Oh, let's see. Actually,
I'll go down to your list. Number 9.
Mm-hmm. Oh, about the magnets, the round magnets and flat magnets. So, do you remember the exact reason that was the change occurred?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, in the factory in Arcade that was making the U.S. made products, there was a huge inventory of flat magnets,
Mm-hmm.
and it was shipped over to China, and they were told to go ahead and use them on certain items.
Oh, so that's why in 1994 you had characters that were starting to be released with round magnets. So,
Eh,
for instance, wait a second. So, for instance, a character like Edward, this is a 1994 Edward, has round magnets. You know,
Yep.
this was new for that year. But then you have a character such as Rusty, and Rusty was new for 1995. But Rusty has flat magnets, which were supposed to have been
That's
obsolete the year before, which is sort of
that's why.
that's interesting. So they
It was
just
actually nothing. There was nothing wrong with the flat magnet except that it couldn't be found manufactured in China.
I see.
The flat magnet actually works a lot better for pulling in straight lines
Huh.
because you have more contact surface to the magnet.
Wow. I see. That's interesting. We always just figured that round magnets replaced the flat magnets because they were more efficient, but
But
I guess the opposite.
hang on just a minute. I have a phone call.
Okay. One moment.
Hello. Somewhere, so I didn't bother getting.
Well, the this has been an interesting interview so far, so let's just continue asking questions. I'm sorry, I was really nervous in the beginning.
They have a 2:30 appointment. And then you can sit to GCC.
I think I've answered your questions, Josh.
Okay, do that. Oh, that was just my granddaughter calling. We're getting her into college in the spring
Oh, really? Wow.
class at Syracuse University.
Oh, that's the same university where you had done.
That's where I went to school.
Wow.
After Purdue. I went to Purdue first in engineering, and then Syracuse.
Wow. It's pretty amazing. So, you've been in this business for at least over 40 years.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't mean to backtrack a bit, but just so what? Just a quick question from about earlier about the coming up of Thomas Wayne Raleigh. So was 1992 the original year when you started work on Thomas Wayne Raleigh? Was that the year that this all began?
Say that again, would you, Robert?
Oh, so when just because I just was just trying to pinpoint the year, but was 1992 the year that you first came into relationships with building with the people who were behind Thomas and making Thomas Wayne Raleigh? Was 1992 the year that this all started, or was it started earlier?
No, that started in early, maybe February, March. I got together with people from Shining Time Station, people with Early Learning Center, people from Burt Croft, the people from the distributors down in Florida, and the distributor out of King something or other up in north of Toronto.
Oh, I think that would be King City.
King City?
Probably, or King. There's the township of
I
King.
think it's like King City.
Ah. Yeah.
Quite a way. It's an hour drive north of Toronto. Mm-hmm. They had the distribution in Canada for over 10 years, and now they're still the marketer for Fisher Price and Thomas in Canada.
I think they might be in Mississauga now, I think.
No, they're north of. They have a office in Mississauga.
Ah, okay. Do you remember the Sawyer Bay tugboat?
A boat?
Oh, sorry. Hold on. I'll get it. Do you remember the Sawyer Bay tugboat?
Of course, that came right out of my imagination.
It's a great little item. I recently did a review of it with a friend, and I dressed up as Quint from Jaws, and was on a little boat on my lake, and as sort of because the movie turned 40 this year, so as a little tribute, I pretended to be Quint fishing, and then my boat gets flipped over because I'm trying to catch what I think is a shark, and then I fall in the water, and it turns out it was just the Sawyer Bay tugboat that just knocked my boat over, and that goes into the review. So,
right,
this is a cute little item. Do you also remember the Sawyer Bay barge? Okay. picture.
Yeah, I made the first one in white and the second one in yellow.
Let's see.
The
Um,
cabin. The original was in white, and the second one is in yellow. Back to the tugboat, you know, the first tugboat had a black smokestack.
oh yes, this is a later version. I think this is 2001,
Yep.
2002. I was the tugboat originally supposed to tow the barge? Is that the purpose of this?
Yes.
Really? So that's why this little boat has this little
Yeah,
knob.
by a simple rubber band.
Really? It's a friend of mine named Matthew Sonic, who goes by the name Mr. MPS. He and I, when we did the review together, he came up with the theory that the reason that the tugboat has the little knob at the end and the barge has the little knob at the front was so that the tugboat could tow the barge.
Right.
Now, is that supposed to be a
Yeah, there
product?
wasn't enough room to put tow pegs on the sides of the barge like a typical tugboat would do.
Mm-hmm.
So putting one single peg in the front and one in the back of the tugboat, you could pull the barge around with a rubber band or piece of kite string or anything.
Ah, let's see. That's neat.
Or thread.
Had you ever seen the show Tugs? I mentioned earlier that the same guy that did Thomas did a show called Tugs. And it was in the same style as Thomas in that the characters were anamorphic. They were alive. So, just a picture. The characters could talk and had personalities, and they were tugboats. So, sorry about that.
No, I never saw that.
That's interesting though about the barge and the tugboat being able to tow each other. That's really neat.
Yep.
I think we already kind of went over this, but so when you kind of left Learning Curve in 1998, or I mean, kind of took a less active role at least, was that due to the fact that they were turning the brand into a more plastic version of what it was before?
Say that again. I got to get close to my computer.
Sorry. So
I've got a bunch of birds in our house, including a macaw, and maybe you can hear them starting to light up a little.
Yeah, I can hear them in the back. So when you left, or at least took a lesser role in 1998 with Learning Curve, was that due to the fact that plastic was becoming more of a commodity with Wooden Railway, which you didn't like and agree with?
Yeah, that was totally the reason. I kept my stock and just left putting in my, 60, 70, 80 hours a week.
Wow.
So,
so did you keep?
I went on to building a big plant, automating a big plant.
And so did you keep a sort of active role with them, or was it just sort of on the side with Learning Curve?
Oh, I would talk to them all the time, but I wasn't making decisions for them, and I wasn't doing any engineering or designing.
Okay. And how did you feel, if you knew about it, when in 2000, I think it was 2007, it was revealed that certain characters that had red paint actually had lead paint?
Well, I was appalled because I had set up a paint inspection program from 1992 that took random samples every hour and sent them out for paint inspections, and we never had any problem. All 7 years.
And then when you kind of, I think it was when 2003, a new company took over Thomas. Um, sort of.
Tommy, well, actually, no. Before Tommy took over, it was RC2, Racing Champions 2.
Really? Huh. Didn't know that. And so, I mean, it must have just been very frustrating to see this great brand you'd made becoming a kind of, not really a laughing stock, but a cheaper version, and now kind of less caring version, because now it was allowing itself to be built with lead paint. I mean, it must have just been frustrating to see that.
Right. I mean, they had to pay out something like, I'm not going to say how many million, but it was something in the, six figures
Wow.
for replacements. That's a lot.
Yeah, just simple. Just a simple inspection could have avoided it. I mean, just.
All they would have had to do was have the paint sample before it ever came in. That's the first step.
Mhm.
And then the second step is to have it tested off of the toys itself.
Mhm. So I
And
just.
then they could put a stop on a small shipment somewhere.
So I mean the direction that Thomas Wood Railway has gone since you've left? I mean, are you pleased, or I mean, are you generally content with it, or are you dissatisfied with where it's gone?
Well, I like the detail they put into their characters. However, there's more plastic involved. Same thing in the destinations and buildings. There's too much plastic, more than before even.
So it's almost lost its way, its character. What made it great in the first place?
That's what made it great. I mean, they still have a great wooden track.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't deviated from the good wooden track, so I'll give them credit for that. I came up with a layout for wooden track that was different than Brio.
Mm-hmm.
That was geometrically correct, and it kind of threw Brio off because I invented a whole bunch of pieces that didn't exist, like 1 inch pieces and 2 inch pieces and three, or not 2 inch, but 3 inch pieces, small, small, small Ys that didn't exist before, and instead of 8 1/4 or 8.5 inch long track, because they were going by millimeters, I changed everything over to inches. And it all worked together on a grid system so it would line up, no forcing of any parts. And they've stayed with that.
Well, and they've at least kept some of their word. Um, are there any more things about that I haven't really brought up? Um, anything that you'd like to share about, like, you know, the story of I guess any stories about the characters or any characters that weren't made? Is there anything kind of interesting about?
Well, I think I worked with a handful of wonderful people that uh, stuck to the timelines, did the work. We worked all night in hotels all around the country and around the world when we traveled. Um, People came to my house and my offices, which were right nearby. So they would come here from New York or they would come here from Chicago, and that made life a lot easier than hauling a lot of prototypes around. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, and when I was at Syracuse, I actually did my graduate thesis on preschool educational environment, which was toys for preschoolers. Never got a chance to use that until 1992. And then later on in 94, I started a line of product with Learning Curve called Lamaze Preschool Toys, infant to preschool, um, which kind of revolutionized the soft toy industry.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I was doing both and I was loving it all.
So since Thomas Wooden Railway, and I mean, have you still are you still working with Lamas Toys, or have you gone on to do other things besides that?
Oh no, I was in an accident in 2001, fell off a building and broke parts of my back and neck and other things. And that limited me to access and getting around, being in a lot of pain. And I stuck to easier projects and or um, doing projects on speculation for myself, like the track to brick project. And that's the way I'm handling things now, is going on with my own product lines.
So basic. Oh, sorry. So you basically have since Thomas Wooden Railway and Lamaze kind of worked for yourself in a way, kind of in.
Yes. Well, I always had. Even when I was working with Lamaze, I was on a contract, and uh, and the 5% um, profit margin that went on for a couple of years, and then we switched it over to a salary. Up until I just told them, I'm done working. I can't handle. Actually, there were two things. I can't handle the plastic, and I can't handle some of the people who seem to have crazy ideas and don't know anything about children in preschool.
Yeah, that's.
They have ideas, but it's not play. It's not true imagination.
It's more like sticking to basically what sells and what would.
What sells are really, they don't belong there. You put a marketing person or an accountant into a design group, and they foul up everything.
Ah. See, it's interesting that, like the Reverend W. Audrey, who wrote the original Thomas stories, you and him share the background of having actually been on railroads as children and having family in railroading. So you had that background with you when you came to work with Thomas, and so you kind of
Right.
understood the, I guess the sort of nature of the railway and what works, and so that's why I've noticed that when others who don't really understand how railways work, or more importantly, have never really worked on a railway or been really on a railway, they really don't understand the way it is. It's weird, I like Audrey and his son and you having been on railroads and kind of grown up around them, got an understanding of it. It's intriguing. I just wanted to say that it's really intriguing.
Not only did he understand railroads, he understood that he could take inanimated characters, give them personalities, and help express his emotions and children's emotions to see them through the bad times of World War II. That's why he wrote his books, were for the children that were abandoned, not abandoned, but orphaned in World War II. It was meant to cheer them up. And so I felt when I go out and do a show like if I were to go do a show or an exhibit in a big department store in New York, and I see 1,000 kids wrapped around the store to come in and see the Thomas Wooden Railway System, my heart is all aglow because they can only come in and spend like 1 minute, and they get so excited and they get dragged away by their parents, kicking and screaming, wanting to play more with the Thomas Wooden Railway System. I can remember that so many places, um, and so many people who wrote me and said thank you for developing the wooden railway system.
Well,
It's been a big part of their life.
I'm one of them. Thank you for creating that. I mean, it's been a part of my life. It's also been a part of my um, experience as a creator, because I've since gone into filmmaking and used Thomas Winbury products as a um, as a a background for my work, because I got into doing reviews and I decided to review products that I enjoyed and knew all about. So I decided to start doing reviews of these guys, and I've since made several reviews and built a small fan base. And I mean, if it had hadn't been for you, I wouldn't be doing that. I don't know what I'd be doing. Maybe in movies, but I know that because of Thomas Wayne Railway, I've been able to meet people and build myself up and learn how to become a better storyteller, and just above all, a better storyteller, because of these toys. So I want to thank you for that, and the people I
But
met.
you're also a better person for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not just a better storyteller, you're a better person. You understand children, their needs, and what pleases them and helps them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you understand the kind of that like when like you knew exactly what they wanted. It's like any great um, storyteller, writer, author, whatever. Any great person knows exactly what people want, even if they themselves don't know exactly what they want. It's being able to say, this is what you want, and say, yeah, and then have them say, yes, this is exactly what we want, and doing that, you know. So with Thomas Wooden Railway, you gave people exactly what they wanted. So that's, you know, it's that stroke of brilliance that you come up with that perfect product. And now Thomas Wooden Railway is one of the most popular, not only Thomas brands in the world, one of the most popular toy brands. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that doesn't really know of, in some way, Wooden Railway products. And of course, Thomas Wooden Railway products are one of the big, you know, pillars of that. I think Thomas Wooden Railway is, you know.
I just read an article on the internet that says Thomas is still the 5th largest selling toy item in the world right now.
And of Thomas Wooden Railway is probably the
Thomas Wooden Railway
is probably the
Yep.
of Thomas products. Thomas Wooden Railway is probably the one that's leading against the model trains or the take along, you know, and the other, and the Trackmaster and all that. I think Thomas Wooden Railway is probably the one that's selling the best. At least that's where I'd put my money in, because it's just still, to this day, incredibly popular. It's still, you know, this big thing that people still, you know, are, you know, attached to. I mean, and the community of people that has come about from this stuff. I mean, there are people. There's a young guy from America I'm friends with. He goes by the name Kikre, but he also goes by the YouTube channel name. He's named himself Thomas Wooden Railway. He doesn't claim to represent Thomas Wooden Railway, but he just has that username because he makes general videos with Thomas Wooden Railway. He does collection videos. He shows his collection. He does stories using the characters, and he has gotten quite an audience by doing this. He has, just doing a quick check. He currently.
Did you know that I was looking behind you that Bill and Ben, when they were first made in prototypes, they're over your left shoulder.
Oh. Right there?
Yeah.
When they were prototypes?
The prototypes couldn't have the Bill and Ben graphics printed on them.
Ah.
So labels were made up.
Stickers, right?
And put in place of the graphics. If you look at Etsy, you see one of the Bill and Ben's. I think you'll see Ben. The Ben model with the labels on it.
Ah, yeah, you can see that it's a sticker.
I got an email the other day from a guy that just said, ha ha ha. He thinks it's funny, but actually hundreds of those were made before we could get the labeling equipment in, not labeling, printing equipment in. So some of those made it out into the market, and the labels came off.
Yikes. So they just stay on like that? Just flat like that?
Well, they're flat, and they didn't stay stuck to the curved surface, so they're sticking up in the air now.
Jeez.
Right out of the box.
Now, just a quick question about your Etsy page. Are these prices set in stone?
They're not cut in stone, but I've had a lot of offers, and I've sold other items that weren't the first run for $2,000 or more. That, when I say wasn't the first run, no, let me back up. Was the first run, but it might have been the 7th or 8th item that came off the run.
So this Annie that has a hand painted face, at least what it appears to have a hand.
Well, remember, there'll never be another one like them.
Mhm. One item. It's currently listed for almost $29,000 Canadian. Jesus.
Yep. Well, the very first, imagine if you had the genuine very first uh, G.I. Joe off the line, and it was confirmed and kept in pristine uh, condition, came with a COA. You know, it came from the actual person who designed it and engineered it. Think of how much the first G.I. Joe is worth, or the first Star Wars uh, character.
Oh, I can imagine that's a lot of money.
Yeah, see, I take these to an appraiser, and the appraiser comes up and says this is what maximum you can expect. I've got bids on quite a few of them, including Ben.
How much have people been on Ben for?
Right now on Ben, I've got $1,500. That's quite a long ways off. He's a guy that's bought quite a bit from me before.
Yeah, I know there's there's a lot. There are a lot of people out there that are trying to get like the first. They collect like the first editions. I know there's a guy who has like 4 or 5 of the first edition Thomases with all different funnels and different sizes and whatnot. So yeah, these are hot commodity.
See, they're not just first edition; they're the very first one that was made that came out of either my hands because I made it and it was a pre-production model, or it's one that was the very first one that came off the assembly line with my help.
Yeah, and I noticed that there's a Rusty with Toby's face.
Yep.
Wow, that's funny. And then there's the Topham Hatt's car, which is yellow instead of like blue. And then there's Ellsworth Station with the pictures of your kids right there. Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, so just the influence that it's had on us. As I was saying, my friend who goes by the name Keith Gray currently has 52,000 subscribers on YouTube and has emasculated almost 95.5 million views. From doing
Yep.
Thomas Wynn Railway videos. I mean, it's just incredible at the amount of people that not only create this stuff but also watch it and engage with it. There's just I mean that Keith Gray guy's most popular video has over 25 million views. And that's just how you know how big it is. I mean, I did a Thomas themed video on one of my channels, and it got 5.5 million views over a period of a few years. I mean, it's just I can't remember if it was Thomas Wooden Railway related, but that's just Thomas Wooden Railway is a part of that. It's a part of that phenomenon. So I don't think I have any more questions, but. I mean, if you felt like there's anything else you'd like to discuss about. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about when it comes to any other stories, or is that about?
Now, and you want to get a hold of me on something, contact me by email. And if you should want to do something with the track to brick, let me know on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. I almost feel like Dennis the Menace, Mr. Wilson. um, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time to do this interview, and also clearing up some of the mysteries of Thomas Wooden Railway, particularly the white-faced troublesome truck, which for the longest time people have been wondering why it exists, what's its purpose, and now we know. And also some of the other items, the yellow Sir Tom Hatt's car, the Soto Bay tugboat, and the Soto Bay barge. So thank you very much for answering my questions. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that we agree that the Flying Scotsman is one of the best Thomas Wooden Railway items. It's one of my favorites. And thank you on behalf of me and all Thomas Wooden Railway fans. Thank you very much.
Well, look, thank you for being so interested and genuinely concerned about the Thomas products, the wooden railway. I think it's great to find people that can keep the interest alive.
Yeah, I mean it's just a great brand, It just needs to keep on going. It needs to keep on living because it's great. Whether or not it's a bit more plasticky now. I mean, I think in some way it'll always be wooden railway. As you said, the track is still wood, and the engines are still made partially of wood. I mean, just the way that Thomas has gone, it's now become absorbed by big businesses that want to make it as profitable as possible. But there always
Right.
there'll always be a place for that genuine aspect of it. In the same way that as Thomas becomes bigger and bigger, there'll always be a place for they'll have the steam engine that looks like Thomas go for those Thomas Day Out events. They'll always have that genuine side to it, no matter how big and how capitalistic it gets. There'll always be that one genuine place that still gives that quality, the quality above quantity kind of thing. So, and you are one of those people that's behind that, so I have to thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you for.
Have a good day.
You too, Mr. Wilson. Thank you very much for this interview. Thank you.
Yep,
Have a good
bye.
day. Goodbye. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that interview with the one and only Roy Wilson, the founder of Thomas Wooden Railway. Um, so that was him. That wasn't a troll. And if you want to just confirm, that actually wasn't not only from his knowledge, but he did an interview for Toy Directory. It's on YouTube, and it's an interview done. I mentioned it. It's an interview done by his granddaughter. Although they only briefly touch upon Thomas Wooden Railway, they go into more about Lamaze. But it's the same voice, same calm way of explaining things. And so, if you find that interview online, you'll see that their voices match up. So that was the real Roy Wilson. That was an interview with the man that pretty much created this. So, thank you, Mr. Wilson. So, yeah.